While writing down the order, the waitress saw the millionaire's name. She froze as she realized he was the man who had left her pregnant 12 years ago. The morning rush at Café Luminoso was in full swing. Andrea Simmons moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail that swung with each step. For 5 years, she'd worked in this upscale San Diego cafe where the wealthy came for their morning lattes and business meetings. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and offered flexible hours, essential for a single mom with a 12-year-old son. "Order up for table 7, called Marco from behind the counter. Andrea grabbed the tray of drinks and navigated through the maze of tables. Table 7 was in the corner by the window, prime real estate in the cafe world, where soft light streamed in and offered a view of the bustling street. As she approached, she glanced at the check to confirm the order. The name stopped her cold. Michael Harrison. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down the first cup. "1 Americano for..." The words died in her throat as she looked up. There he was, 12 years older but unmistakable. The same sharp jawline, now more defined. The same intense blue eyes, now framed by subtle lines. His dark hair was shorter, more polished, but with the same rebellious wave she used to run her fingers through. Michael Harrison, the boy who had promised her the world at 18, then vanished without a trace when she needed him most. "Is everything all right?" Michael asked, barely looking up from his phone. Andrea blinked, forcing herself back to the present. "Yes, sir. Sorry." She finished setting down the drinks, acutely aware of her racing heart. He didn't recognize her. Of course he didn't. The Andrea he knew wasn't a waitress with tired eyes and calloused hands. "Will there be anything else?" she managed to ask. "That's all for now." His attention had already returned to his phone. Andrea retreated to the safety of the counter, her mind reeling with memories she'd fought hard to suppress. 12 years earlier. "I love you, Andrea. You know that, right?" Michael whispered, as they lay on the beach, staring at the stars. At 18, he was all passion and promises. "I know," she said, nestling into his shoulder. "But what about college? What about your family?" Michael propped himself up on his elbow. "Screw what my mother thinks. I don't care about the Harrison name or the family business. I care about you." Andrea smiled, wanting to believe him. Young love felt so certain, so permanent. Neither of them knew how fragile it really was. "Earth to Andrea." Marco snapped his fingers. "Table 4 needs refills." She nodded, forcing herself back to reality. Just another day at work. Just another customer. But as she moved through her shift, she couldn't help stealing glances at Michael. He sat with 2 men in expensive suits, gesturing confidently as he spoke. A newspaper on a nearby table caught her eye, his face on the business section. Something about Harrison Enterprises expanding its tech division. The boy who had once dreamed of escaping his family's shadow had become exactly what he'd sworn he'd never be. That evening, Andrea's small apartment felt especially quiet as she prepared dinner. The sound of the key in the lock pulled her from her thoughts. "Mom, I'm home," Liam called out, dropping his backpack by the door. Andrea smiled at her son, her pride, her world. With his dark wavy hair and bright blue eyes, he was the spitting image of his father, a fact that had been both a blessing and a curse over the years. "How was school?" she asked, ruffling his hair as he passed. "Good," he mumbled, heading straight for the refrigerator. "Mr. Garcia says I should enter the science fair. He thinks my project could win." "That's fantastic, honey." Andrea stirred the pasta sauce. "What's the project about again?" "Renewable energy. I'm designing a small-scale wind turbine." He grabbed an apple and took a bite. "Most of the other kids are just doing volcanoes or whatever." Andrea smiled proudly. Liam had always been exceptionally bright, another trait inherited from Michael. "Mom?" Liam asked suddenly, his voice taking on that careful tone she'd come to recognize. "Tommy was talking about his dad teaching him to throw a baseball today." Andrea's hand stilled on the wooden spoon. I was just wondering." Liam hesitated, studying her reaction. "Will you ever tell me more about my dad?" Andrea's chest tightened. The question came up more frequently these days. "What do you want to know that I haven't already told you?" Liam shrugged, trying to appear casual, though his eyes betrayed his intensity. "Why did he leave? Didn't he want me?" Andrea set down the spoon and turned to face her son. How could she explain the complexity of what had happened? that she'd written letters that were never answered, that phone calls were never returned, that when she'd gone to the Harrison estate, 8 months pregnant and desperate, the security guards had turned her away. "Your father and I were very young," she said carefully. "Sometimes people aren't ready for the responsibility of a child, but you were the same age, and you took care of me," Liam countered with the unassailable logic of a 12-year-old. Andrea sighed. "It's complicated, Liam. I've always told you that, when you're older." "I am older," he protested. "I'm not a little kid anymore." Andrea looked at her son. So grown up in some ways, still so young in others. She wanted to protect him from the hurt she'd experienced, but she also knew his questions would only grow more persistent. "Your father came from a very wealthy family with certain expectations," she began cautiously. "Our relationship wasn't approved of because you weren't rich." Andrea winced at his bluntness. "Partly, but what matters is that I had you, and you're the best thing that ever happened to me." Liam seemed to consider this. Disappointment evident in his face. "Do you think he ever thinks about me?" The question pierced Andrea's heart. "I don't know, honey." The truth was, until today, she'd convinced herself Michael Harrison had erased them both from his memory. Just another chapter closed in his privileged life. Now she wasn't so sure. The next morning, Andrea arrived early for her shift, heart pounding with anxiety. Would Michael return to the cafe? Part of her hoped not. Another part, a part she resented, hoped he would. "You okay?" her coworker Denise asked as they tied their aprons. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Andrea forced a smile. "Just tired. Liam had questions about his dad last night." Denise nodded sympathetically. She was one of the few people who knew Andrea's full story. "That's getting more frequent, huh?" "Yeah," Andrea sighed. "I don't know what to tell him anymore." The bell above the door chimed, and Andrea's breath caught. Michael walked in, this time alone, dressed in a tailored dark gray suit. He headed to the same corner table without glancing at the staff. "Isn't that?" Denise whispered, eyes widening. Andrea nodded tightly. "I'll handle it." She approached his table, notepad in hand, professional smile fixed in place. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" Michael looked up, and for a split second, something flickered in his eyes. A moment of almost recognition that vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Just a black coffee," he said, then hesitated. "Have we met before? You seem familiar." Andrea's heart hammered against her ribs. 12 years of questions, of anger, of explanations rehearsed in her mind, suddenly pressed against her lips. But as she opened her mouth, she remembered Liam waiting at home, blissfully unaware that his father sat before her now. She thought of the scandal that would erupt, the disruption to the life she'd carefully built. "I've been working here for 5 years, she said simply. "You might have seen me around." Michael nodded, seemingly satisfied with her answer, but his gaze lingered a moment longer than necessary. 5 years, huh? Longer than most of my employees stick around." "Well," Andrea replied with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes, "not all of us have the luxury of moving on whenever we please." She turned and walked away, leaving Michael Harrison staring after her, puzzled by the strange feeling that he'd just missed something important. Liam Simmons sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, a weathered cardboard box open before him. His mom was working a double shift at the cafe, which gave him the perfect opportunity to search for clues about his father. The box had been tucked away in the back of his mother's closet, not exactly hidden, but not displayed either. A box of memories she rarely revisited. "Come on," he muttered, carefully examining old concert tickets, birthday cards, and faded photographs. "There's gotta be something." At the bottom of the box, trapped between a high school yearbook and a small velvet jewelry pouch. He found it, a photograph curled at the edges, 2 teenagers on a beach, arms wrapped around each other. Laughing into the camera, his mother looked so young, so carefree, and the boy beside her. Liam's heart skipped a beat. It was like looking into a mirror. The same dark wavy hair, the same jawline, even the same lopsided smile. He turned the photo over, written in faded blue ink, "Michael and Andrea. La Jolla, summer 2013. "Michael," Liam whispered, testing the name. Finally, he had a name. Michael Harrison couldn't concentrate on the quarterly reports spread across his desk. His mind kept drifting back to the cafe, to the waitress with the familiar eyes. It wasn't just that she was attractive, though she certainly was. In a subtle, unassuming way, it was something else, something that nagged at the edges of his memory. His office phone buzzed. "Mr. Harrison, your mother is on line 1. Michael stifled a groan. "Put her through." He'd been avoiding Evelyn's calls all week, but he could only dodge her for so long. "Michael, darling." Evelyn's cultured voice filled the line. "I haven't heard from you in days." "I've been busy, Mother. The Jensen merger is hardly an excuse to neglect family," she interrupted smoothly. "I'm hosting a dinner for the Children's Hospital Board on Friday. You'll be there." It wasn't a question. With Evelyn, it never was. "I'll check my calendar," he said, knowing full well he'd end up attending. 12 years running the family business, and he still found himself bending to his mother's will, more often than he cared to admit. "Excellent. Oh, and bring someone appropriate this time. That PR girl you brought to the Christmas gala was entirely too ambitious." Michael pinched the bridge of his nose. "Goodbye, Mother." After hanging up, he leaned back in his leather chair, gazing out at the San Diego skyline. Sometimes he barely recognized the life he was living. Endless meetings, charity galas, relationships that felt more like business arrangements than anything real. Had he ever wanted any of this? There'd been a time, years ago, when he dreamed of something different, something authentic. A memory flickered. A girl's laughter, waves crashing, promises made under stars. But like always, the memory slipped away before he could grasp it fully. Michael shook his head and reached for his coat. He needed coffee, and maybe, just maybe, another glimpse of those hauntingly familiar eyes. Andrea nearly dropped the coffee pot when she saw Michael enter the cafe for the 3rd day in a row. This was becoming a pattern, one that left her increasingly on edge. "Your favorite customer's back," Denise whispered, nodding toward the corner table where Michael was settling in. "He's not my favorite anything," Andrea hissed back. "Well, he specifically asked for you yesterday when you were on break, just saying." Andrea's stomach tightened. "What did he want?" "Just coffee, but he seemed disappointed when I told him you weren't available." Denise raised an eyebrow suggestively. "Don't," Andrea warned. "It's not like that." "If you say so," Denise said skeptically. "But rich, handsome guys don't keep coming back for our mediocre coffee." Andrea sighed and straightened her apron. "I'll handle it." As she approached Michael's table, she steeled herself against the rush of emotions his presence triggered. Anger, hurt, and something else she refused to acknowledge. "The usual?" she asked, keeping her voice neutral. Michael looked up from his laptop and smiled. That same smile that had once made her 18-year-old heart race. "Please. And maybe you could recommend something to eat. I have a conference call in 20 minutes. The Turkey Club is popular," Andrea said automatically. "Perfect." Michael closed his laptop. "Andrea, right? Your name tag was covered yesterday." Hearing her name and his voice after so many years sent an unwelcome shiver down her spine. "That's right. I'm Michael." "I know," she replied, then quickly added, "Your name's on the credit card receipts." He chuckled. "Occupational hazard of having a somewhat recognizable name. People either know too much about me or nothing at all." Andrea bit back a bitter retort. If only he knew how much she knew, and how much he didn't. "I'll get your order in," she said, turning to leave. "Wait," Michael said, causing her to pause. "This might sound strange, but I can't shake the feeling we've met before." Andrea's heart hammered. Part of her wanted to tell him everything right there, to watch the recognition and shock wash over his perfect, composed face. But another part, the protective mother who'd built a life from scratch, held back. "I've just got one of those faces," she said with a shrug. "I'll bring your coffee." Across town, in the sprawling Harrison estate overlooking the Pacific, Evelyn Harrison hung up the phone with a satisfied smile. The charity gala was taking shape nicely. Another opportunity to showcase the Harrison family's generosity while securing valuable business connections. Her personal assistant knocked lightly on the open door. "Mrs. Harrison, the information you requested on the Jensen merger." "Thank you, Claire." Evelyn took the folder and glanced through it. "Any word from Michael today?" "He's been in meetings all morning," Claire replied. But there was a message from his assistant about reserving a table at the Four Seasons for dinner with the board members. Evelyn nodded approvingly. At least her son was handling that part of his responsibilities well. Sometimes she worried about Michael. There was a restlessness in him, a dissatisfaction she couldn't quite place. The boy had everything: wealth, position, good looks, yet something was missing. Oh, and Mrs. Harrison? Claire added hesitantly. There's been another inquiry about the family archives, a graduate student researching San Diego's business dynasties. Evelyn's expression hardened slightly. Deny the request. The Harrison archives remain private. As Claire left, Evelyn moved to the antique secretary desk in the corner of her office. With practiced movements, she unlocked the bottom drawer and removed a small leather-bound book, her diary from 12 years ago. She rarely revisited these pages, but something about Michael's recent distraction troubled her. She flipped through the entries until she found what she was looking for. July 18th, 2013. Finally resolved the Andrea situation. The girl took the money and promised to disappear. Michael must never know about the child. The Harrison line will not be tainted by some waitress's bastard offspring. It's for his own good. Evelyn closed the diary with a snap. She'd done what was necessary to protect her son, to protect the family name. Some secrets needed to stay buried. Her phone chimed with a text message from her assistant. Mr. Harrison has been visiting Café Luminoso in La Jolla several times this week. The Jensen meeting has been moved there tomorrow at his request. A chill ran through Evelyn. Café Luminoso. Why did that name sound familiar? She opened her laptop and searched quickly for the cafe's staff directory. When Andrea Simmons' employee profile appeared on the screen, Evelyn's blood ran cold. Impossible, she whispered, staring at the familiar face. Older now, but unmistakable. The girl who had threatened everything Evelyn had built, who she'd paid to disappear forever, was back, and Michael was being drawn right to her. Liam couldn't stop staring at the photograph. He'd tucked it carefully into his science textbook, sneaking glances between math problems and history assignments. Michael. His father had a name now, a face. His face. Practically, the resemblance was undeniable. During lunch period, he sat alone at his usual table by the window, the photograph hidden beneath his tray. His best friend Jake slid onto the bench across from him. "What's with you today?" Jake asked, stealing one of Liam's apple slices. "You're all weird and quiet." Liam hesitated, then carefully slid the photo toward Jake. "I found this in my mom's stuff." Jake's eyes widened. "Dude, is that your dad?" "I think so," Liam whispered, quickly taking the photo back when a teacher walked by. "His name is Michael. Have you Googled him?" Liam shook his head. "Michael what? It's just a first name." "Well, where was the picture taken? Any other clues?" "Just La Jolla written on the back." Liam sighed. "And my mom would kill me if she knew I was snooping." Jake pulled out his phone under the table. "Let's try Michael La Jolla businessman since he's probably around your mom's age now." Liam leaned closer as Jake scrolled through search results. Nothing promising appeared until Jake switched to image search, and there, in a photo from a charity event last year, was a face Liam recognized instantly. "That's him," Liam breathed, grabbing the phone. "Michael Harrison." Jake whistled low. "Dude, the Harrisons are loaded like mega rich. They own half of downtown." Liam stared at the screen in disbelief. The caption under the photo read, "Tech mogul Michael Harrison announces $5 million donation to Children's Hospital at annual benefit gala." "There's another event coming up," Jake said, pointing to a news article. "The Harrison Foundation's Spring Benefit for Education. It's this Friday at the Bayside Convention Center." Liam's mind raced with possibilities. If he could somehow get to that event, see this man in person. "I have to go," he decided. "Are you insane?" Jake looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "It's probably some fancy ticket thing for rich people." "I'll figure something out," Liam insisted, a plan already forming in his mind. Michael arrived at Café Luminoso with 2 executives from Jensen Technologies in tow. He'd suggested the cafe for their meeting partly because of its excellent coffee, but mostly because of the waitress with the eyes that haunted him. Mr. Harrison, the cafe owner, a jovial Italian man named Antonio, greeted him personally. "Your usual table is ready." Michael nodded appreciatively. Becoming a regular had its perks. As they settled in, Michael scanned the cafe for Andrea, feeling a twinge of disappointment when he didn't see her. "So, Harrison," Jensen said, "tell me why I should trust you with my company's future." Michael shifted back into business mode, outlining his vision for integrating Jensen's innovative tech into the Harrison portfolio. But halfway through his pitch, movement by the counter caught his eye. Andrea had arrived for her shift, tying her apron and laughing at something her coworker said. Something about her laugh tugged at his memory. "Excuse me," Michael said to his companions. "I just spotted someone I need to speak with briefly. I'll be right back." Before Jensen could protest, Michael was on his feet, moving toward the counter. "Andrea?" he said, surprised by the urgency in his own voice. She turned, clearly startled to see him approaching the staff area. "Mr. Harrison, your usual server will be with you shortly. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else." Michael lowered his voice. "The cafe. I'd like to make a donation through my foundation, for renovations, new equipment, whatever's needed." Andrea's expression shifted from surprise to suspicion. "Why?" "Community investment. It's what we do." He handed her a business card. "The Harrison Foundation Spring Benefit is this Friday. We support local businesses, educational initiatives. You should come. Bring your family." Andrea stared at the card as if it might bite her. "I work Friday nights. I can speak to Antonio," Michael offered. "I'm sure he'd give you the night off for this." "Mr. Harrison," Andrea said, her voice tight with an emotion he couldn't quite place. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't need your charity." "It's not charity," Michael insisted, feeling inexplicably desperate to connect with her. "It's an opportunity. For the cafe, for what?" Andrea challenged, her composure cracking slightly. "Why are you really here, Michael? Why this cafe? Why me?" The use of his first name, the intensity in her eyes, it struck something deep within him. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just feel like I should know you." For a moment, something vulnerable flashed across Andrea's face. Then, just as quickly, her walls came back up. "Well, you don't," she said firmly, pushing the business card back into his hand. "You don't know me at all." After her shift, Andrea walked home with her mind in turmoil. Michael's appearance in her life felt like the universe playing a cruel joke. 12 years of silence, and now he couldn't seem to stay away, offering donations, invitations, looking at her with confused recognition in his eyes. She unlocked the apartment door, calling out, "Liam, I'm home." No answer. She found him in his room, hunched over his desk, quickly sliding papers under a textbook when she appeared. "Hey, what are you working on?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Just the science fair project," Liam replied, not quite meeting her eyes. Andrea knew her son well enough to recognize when he was hiding something, but she was too emotionally drained to press the issue. "Homework done." "Mostly," Liam hesitated, then asked, "Mom, can I go to Jake's on Friday night? His dad got tickets to this tech thing at the convention center, and Jake invited me." "What kind of tech thing?" Andrea asked, suspicious. "Just some innovation showcase thing. Jake's dad thinks it'll be educational." Liam shrugged with practiced nonchalance. "There's supposed to be college scouts there too, looking for scholarship candidates." Andrea wavered. Liam rarely asked to go out on weekends, usually preferring to stay home with his projects or video games, and she couldn't deny that the mention of scholarships piqued her interest. "I guess that would be okay," she conceded. "But I want you home by 10, and I want Jake's dad's phone number." Liam's face lit up. "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." As she turned to leave, Andrea noticed the corner of a photograph sticking out from under Liam's textbook. Her stomach dropped as she recognized the beach photo she kept hidden in her memory box. "Liam," she said carefully. "What's that?" Her son froze, guilt written across his face. "I found it," he admitted quietly, "when I was looking for batteries in your closet. Is that my dad?" Andrea sank onto the edge of his bed, suddenly feeling very tired. "You were snooping. I just want to know who he is," Liam said, his voice cracking slightly. "I have a right to know." The words hit Andrea like a physical blow. She'd always known this day would come, when vague explanations wouldn't be enough anymore. "His name was Michael," she admitted. "We were very young." "Michael Harrison," Liam said. Andrea's head snapped up. "How did you—" "I Googled him," Liam confessed. And I found out about the benefit on Friday. That's where Jake's dad is taking us. It's not really a tech thing. A cold dread washed over Andrea. Liam, absolutely not. You are not going to that event. Why not? Liam demanded, anger and hurt flashing in his eyes, so like his father's. Because you don't want me to meet him. Don't I deserve to at least see what he's like? You don't understand, Andrea insisted, struggling to keep her voice level. It's complicated. Then explain it to me, Liam shouted. Why won't you just tell me the truth? Did he really abandon us? Or is there more to the story? The question hung in the air between them. Andrea thought of the letters she'd sent, returned unopened. The phone calls never returned. The security guards at the Harrison estate turning her away. But she also thought of the confusion in Michael's eyes at the cafe, the way he seemed drawn to her without understanding why. Was it possible he didn't know? After all these years, was it possible he truly hadn't known about Liam? I don't want you getting hurt, she finally said. I'm already hurt, Liam replied quietly. Every time someone asks about my dad and I have nothing to say. Every father-son event I miss. Every time I look in the mirror and see a face that isn't yours. Andrea felt tears threatening. She pulled her son into a hug, feeling him stiffen briefly before relaxing into her embrace. Give me some time, she whispered. Please don't go to that event, not yet, I need to figure some things out first. Liam pulled back, studying her face. Are you going to talk to him? Tell him about me? Andrea touched his cheek gently. I don't know yet, but I promise. We'll figure this out together. Later, alone in her room, Andrea held the beach photograph, tracing Michael's young face with her finger. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow she would confront him with the truth. But when tomorrow came, everything would change in ways none of them could have anticipated. Evelyn Harrison arrived at Café Luminoso shortly after it opened, before the morning rush. She'd carefully timed her visit. Michael would be in meetings until noon, giving her ample opportunity to handle this situation. The bell chimed softly as she entered, scanning the quiet cafe with critical eyes. It was a pleasant enough establishment, she supposed, though certainly beneath the Harrison standard. Her gaze settled on the dark-haired woman behind the counter, and her jaw tightened. Andrea Simmons, older, more refined perhaps, but undeniably the same troublesome girl from 12 years ago. Good morning, Andrea greeted with a professional smile that faltered when she recognized her customer. Mrs. Harrison, you remember me, Evelyn said coolly, approaching the counter. How convenient. Andrea's posture stiffened. What can I get for you today? Let's dispense with the pretense. Shall we? Evelyn kept her voice low, her smile fixed in place for anyone who might be watching. I thought our arrangement was clear. You were to stay away from my son. Permanently. I didn't seek him out, Andrea replied, her knuckles white against the counter. He came here, and you just happened to be working at the one cafe in San Diego he frequents. Evelyn raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Do you take me for a fool? I've worked here for 5 years. Your son only started coming in last week. Evelyn studied Andrea's face, looking for deception, finding none. She shifted tactics. What do you want? More money? Is that it? Andrea's eyes flashed dangerously. I never wanted your money in the first place. Yet you cashed the check readily enough. To survive, Andrea hissed. To feed my son, your grandson, after you destroyed any chance of Michael knowing about him. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. Ancient history. What matters now is protecting Michael's future. The Jensen merger. His position in the company. These things are too important to risk over some youthful indiscretion. Is that what you call your grandchild? An indiscretion. Andrea's voice trembled with anger. I'll make this very simple, Evelyn said, sliding an envelope across the counter. Inside is a check for $250,000 and tickets to New York. One way, leave San Diego, and this time, stay gone. Andrea stared at the envelope without touching it. And if I refuse, Evelyn's smile turned cold. Andrea, dear, you're a single mother with a questionable employment history, living paycheck to paycheck. I'm a Harrison. If I chose to make trouble for you, custody challenges, employment difficulties, housing problems, who do you think would prevail? Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a generous opportunity. Consider it carefully. Evelyn turned to leave, then paused, Oh, and Andrea, if Michael learns about the boy, I'll know who to blame. This time, there won't be another check. Liam sat in the school library, scrolling through every article he could find about Michael Harrison. The man was everywhere in San Diego business news, cutting ribbons at tech startups, speaking at economic forums, donating to charities. His father was a big deal. His father, the word still felt strange, exciting, and terrifying all at once. A notification popped up on his phone, an email from the Harrison Foundation. Liam's heart raced as he opened it. Dear Mr. Simmons, we are pleased to inform you that your application for the Harrison Foundation STEM Education Grant has been selected for advancement to the finalist round. Please join us at our spring benefit this Friday for the announcement of this year's recipients. Sincerely, the Harrison Foundation Educational Committee. Liam stared at the screen in disbelief. He hadn't applied for any grant, but the timing was too perfect to be coincidental. Somehow, his name had been added to the finalist list, his ticket into the benefit event. He quickly forwarded the email to his school address and printed it out. Now he had proof to show his mother, a legitimate reason to attend, but deep down, Liam knew this was no coincidence. Someone wanted him at that event. Michael sat across from Gerald Turner, the education director for the Harrison Foundation, reviewing the final list of grant recipients for Friday's benefit. And we've added a last-minute finalist to the STEM education category, Turner said, sliding a folder across the desk. Extraordinary project on renewable energy. The selection committee was quite impressed. Michael flipped through the submission. A detailed proposal for an innovative small-scale wind turbine, designed by a middle school student named Liam Simmons. Simmons, Michael repeated, something about the name tugging at him. This is excellent work, especially for his age. I thought you might want to present this award personally, Turner suggested. It aligns with your interest in green energy initiatives. Michael nodded absently. Studying the boy's project photo, there was something oddly familiar about the child's features, the intensity in his eyes. Yes, I'd be happy to present this one. As Turner left, Michael continued staring at the photo. Liam Simmons. Why did that name feel important? Mrs. Herrera, the Harrison estate's longtime housekeeper, was dusting the study when Evelyn returned from her outing. 30 years in the Harrison household had taught her when to speak and when to become invisible. Today, seeing the thunderous expression on Mrs. Harrison's face, invisibility seemed prudent. Mrs. Herrera, Evelyn said sharply, has my son called? No, ma'am, she replied, keeping her eyes lowered. But Mr. Turner from the foundation stopped by with some paperwork. Evelyn nodded dismissively and disappeared into her private office. Mrs. Herrera exhaled slowly, setting down her feather duster. She'd recognized the name on those grant papers Turner had left behind. Simmons, the same name that had appeared in the house 12 years ago, carried by a desperate, pregnant young woman whom Evelyn had turned away. Mrs. Herrera had been polishing silver in the adjacent room when Evelyn had threatened the girl, told her Michael wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. She'd watched through the crack in the door as the girl crumpled. As Evelyn wrote a check with the condition that Andrea Simmons would disappear forever, she'd kept this secret for 12 years, along with all the other Harrison secrets. But seeing that name again, Simmons, made her wonder if perhaps some secrets weren't meant to stay buried forever. Andrea couldn't focus for the remainder of her shift. Evelyn's threats echoed in her mind, mingling with memories of that terrible day 12 years ago, when she'd stood in the Harrison mansion, begging to see Michael, only to be told he wanted nothing to do with her or their child. She'd been so young, so vulnerable. Taking the check had felt like surrender. But with a baby on the way and nowhere to turn, what choice did she have? Now here was Evelyn again, with the same cold eyes and colder heart, trying to erase her, erase Liam, from Michael's life. But this time, Andrea wasn't a scared teenager. This time she wouldn't be bullied when she returned home. She found Liam waiting for her, practically bouncing with excitement. Mom, look! He thrust a printed email into her hands. I got selected as a finalist for a Harrison Foundation grant for my wind turbine project. The award ceremony is at the benefit on Friday. Andrea scanned the email, her blood running cold. Liam, this doesn't make sense. You never applied for this grant. Maybe Mr. Garcia submitted my project. He's always saying I should enter more competitions. Andrea shook her head. This had Evelyn Harrison written all over it. A trap. A way to identify Liam publicly and then discredit him somehow. I don't think you should go. Liam's face fell. What, Mom? This is a huge opportunity. Colleges look at these awards, and there's a cash prize that could help with tuition. It's not what you think, Andrea insisted, struggling to find the right words without revealing too much. Is this about him? Liam demanded. About Michael Harrison. Because I figured it out, Mom. I know he's going to be there. I know he's my father. Liam, Jake's dad already agreed to take us. If you don't let me go with them, I'll find another way. The determination in his eyes, so like Michael's, told Andrea he meant every word. Her son had inherited his father's stubborn streak, for better or worse. Fine, she relented, making a quick decision. But I'm coming with you. Liam's expression brightened. Really, you'll come? Yes, Andrea said firmly. It's time we both got some answers. What she didn't tell him was that she had no intention of letting Liam anywhere near the stage, or Michael, until she understood exactly what Evelyn was planning. If the Harrison matriarch wanted a confrontation, she'd get one, but on Andrea's terms. For 12 years, she'd protected her son from the truth. Now, she'd protect him from the Harrisons, even if it meant finally revealing everything she'd kept hidden for so long, as Liam hugged her tightly, whispering, "Thank you," against her shoulder. Andrea closed her eyes, praying she wasn't making the biggest mistake of their lives. The Bayside Convention Center glittered with San Diego's elite on Friday evening. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables adorned with white orchids and silver candelabras, while waitstaff in crisp black uniforms circulated with champagne flutes. Andrea tugged uncomfortably at her navy blue dress, the only formal outfit she owned, as she and Liam approached the entrance. She'd spent most of her savings on a ticket after discovering that finalists were only allotted one guest pass, which Liam had already promised to Jake. "Remember what we agreed," she whispered to Liam. "We're just here for the award. No approaching Michael without talking to me first." Liam nodded, but Andrea recognized the gleam in his eyes, that mix of determination and curiosity that always got him into trouble. He looked so handsome in his borrowed suit, so grown up, and so painfully like Michael. "There's Jake," Liam said, waving to his friend near the registration table. "I'm going to check in with him." Before Andrea could protest, Liam had slipped into the crowd. She sighed, scanning the room for any sign of Evelyn Harrison. Whatever the woman was planning, Andrea intended to intercept it. Michael adjusted his bow tie in the reflection of his phone camera, mentally rehearsing his speech. These foundation events were routine. Shake hands, thank donors, present awards. But tonight he felt unusually anxious. 5 minutes. Mr. Harrison, an event coordinator, informed him. Michael nodded, pocketing his phone as his mother approached. Evelyn Harrison was resplendent in emerald silk, diamonds glittering at her throat and wrists. "You look distracted," she observed, straightening his already perfect tie. "Just reviewing my talking points," Michael replied. "The Jensen merger announcement is significant." "Indeed," Evelyn's gaze swept the filling ballroom. "I took the liberty of inviting the Whitaker girl tonight, Helena. Her father's firm would be an excellent addition to our legal team." Michael suppressed an eye roll. His mother's matchmaking attempts had grown more transparent over the years. "I'm perfectly capable of managing my own social life, Mother." "Evidently not," Evelyn said coolly. 32 years old and still no prospects for continuing the Harrison line. It's concerning. Before Michael could respond, Gerald Turner appeared at his elbow. "Sorry to interrupt, but we've had a slight change to the program. The STEM education grant presentation will follow immediately after your opening remarks." Michael frowned. That wasn't the plan. The young recipient has a strict curfew, Turner explained apologetically. His mother insisted. Something in Turner's tone caught Michael's attention. "His mother is here." "Yes. Mrs. Simmons purchased a ticket yesterday, quite determined to attend." Michael felt an inexplicable tightness in his chest at the name. Simmons, like the waitress at the cafe, like the boy receiving the award. Liam Simmons. "Fine," he agreed. "We'll adjust the schedule," as Turner hurried away. Michael noticed his mother's rigid posture, the tightness around her mouth. "Is everything all right, Mother?" Evelyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Perfectly fine, darling, shall we?" Liam couldn't stop fidgeting as he sat at a table near the stage with Jake and Mr. Peters. His eyes darted between the entrance where his mother had disappeared to use the restroom and the side door where staff occasionally emerged. "Dude, chill," Jake whispered. "You look like you're about to jump out of your skin." "What if he recognizes me?" Liam whispered back. "What if he takes one look and just knows?" Jake shrugged. "Isn't that what you want?" Before Liam could answer, the lights dimmed and a spotlight illuminated the stage. A distinguished-looking man in his 60s approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Harrison Foundation Spring Benefit. I'm Gerald Turner, Executive Director of the Foundation. It is my pleasure to introduce our host for the evening, the Chairman and CEO of Harrison Enterprises, Mr. Michael Harrison." The crowd applauded as Michael took the stage, commanding and confident in his tuxedo. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. There he was, his father, in the flesh. "Thank you, Gerald." Michael's voice was deep, assured. The Harrison Foundation was established with a simple mission: to invest in our community's future. Tonight, we celebrate that mission with over $2 million in grants to local organizations and promising individuals. As Michael continued his speech, Liam studied every detail: the way he stood, the gestures of his hands, the inflection of his voice. It was like watching an older version of himself, right down to the way Michael ran his hand through his hair when transitioning to a new topic. "Our first award tonight recognizes innovation in renewable energy," Michael announced. "The Harrison Foundation STEM Education Grant goes to a remarkably talented young man whose wind turbine design impressed our entire selection committee. Please welcome to the stage Liam Simmons." The spotlight swung to Liam's table. Paralyzed by the sudden attention, he felt Jake nudge him hard. "That's you, man, go." On shaky legs, Liam rose and made his way to the steps leading to the stage. Each step felt momentous, carrying him closer to the man who had unknowingly shaped his existence. As he reached the top of the stairs, Michael extended his hand, smiling warmly. "Congratulations, Liam." Liam took his father's hand, feeling a jolt of connection that nearly took his breath away. They were shaking hands. He was touching his father for the first time in his life. "Thank you, sir," he managed to say. Michael handed him an engraved crystal award and a check. "Your project shows remarkable innovation. The selection committee was particularly impressed by your understanding of sustainable energy principles. Would you like to say a few words?" The microphone was suddenly in front of him, and Liam faced the sea of expectant faces. Somewhere in that crowd was his mother, who had raised him alone, who had protected him fiercely all these years. But here, right beside him, was the missing piece of his life, the father who didn't even know he existed. In that moment, 12 years of questions, of longing, of wondering why his father had never wanted him, crystallized into a single, overwhelming impulse. Liam began, his voice cracking. He cleared his throat and started again. "Thank you for this award. It means a lot to me. But there's something I need to say." In the audience, Andrea froze, instantly recognizing the expression on her son's face. The same look he got right before jumping off the high dive or standing up to a playground bully. She began pushing through the crowd toward the stage. "My name is Liam Simmons," he continued, his voice growing stronger. "And I'm standing next to my father." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Michael's smile faltered, his brow furrowing in confusion. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, but the microphone caught his words. "You're my father," Liam stated, years of emotion making his voice tremble despite his best efforts. "My mother is Andrea Simmons. I'm 12 years old. You do the math." The murmur became a buzz of shocked whispers. Camera flashes erupted from the media section. Michael stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief as he stared at the boy beside him. A boy with his eyes, his jawline, his features. "Liam!" Andrea's voice cut through the chaos as she finally reached the edge of the stage. "Liam, stop." But it was too late. The damage was done. "I don't understand," Michael said, looking from Liam to Andrea and back again. "This is some kind of mistake." "No mistake," Liam replied, tears now streaming freely down his face. "I found your picture. I saw how much we look alike. I just want to know why you left us." The event coordinator rushed forward, attempting to usher them off stage, but Michael waved him away, His eyes locked on Andrea. "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice barely audible over the growing commotion. Before Andrea could answer, Evelyn appeared at Michael's side, her face pale but composed. "This is obviously a publicity stunt," she announced smoothly into the microphone. "Security, please escort these people out." "No!" Liam cried, his momentary confidence crumbling as 2 security guards approached. "Please, just look at me. Can't you see it? Everyone else can." And indeed, the resemblance was impossible to miss. Side by side on the stage, the truth was written in every shared feature, every matching gesture. Michael held up his hand, stopping the security guards. "Wait." He turned to Andrea, who had now climbed onto the stage and placed a protective arm around Liam. "You're the waitress from the cafe." Andrea nodded, her expression a complex mix of anger, fear, and resignation. "You knew who I was this whole time," Michael realized, his voice hollow. "And you never said anything." "I tried to tell you," Andrea said quietly. 12 years ago, you didn't want to know." The accusation hit Michael like a physical blow. "That's not true. I never—" "Ladies and gentlemen," Gerald Turner interrupted, taking control of the microphone. "We're going to take a brief intermission. Please enjoy the refreshments in the foyer." As the murmuring crowd began to disperse, Michael turned to his mother. "What's happening here? Do you know something about this?" Evelyn's expression remained carefully neutral. "Let's discuss this privately, Michael. Not in front of an audience." Michael looked back at Andrea and Liam, the woman who seemed so hauntingly familiar, the boy who wore his face, and made a decision. "My office," he said tersely. "Now, all of us." As they walked off stage, followed by a stone-faced Evelyn, the flash of cameras continued, capturing the moment that would splash across every San Diego newspaper by morning. Tech mogul Michael Harrison confronted by secret son at charity gala. There would be no going back from this night. For any of them, the temporary office that had been set up for Michael at the convention center felt suffocatingly small with all 4 of them inside. Michael paced by the window, periodically glancing at Liam, who sat beside Andrea on a small sofa. Evelyn remained standing, her posture rigid, eyes darting between her son and the woman she'd paid to disappear. "Start talking," Michael said to Andrea, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. "I think you should go first," Andrea replied, her hand protectively covering Liam's. "Explain to your son why you abandoned us." "I didn't—" Michael ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I never knew about him. How could I abandon someone I didn't know existed?" Andrea's eyes widened with disbelief. "You expect me to believe that, after I called you dozens of times, after I wrote letters that were never answered, after I came to your house, 8 months pregnant, begging to see you." "What?" Michael turned to face her fully. "I never received any calls or letters, and you certainly never came to the house. I would remember that." "She's lying, Michael," Evelyn interjected smoothly. "This is obviously an attempt to extort money from the family." Andrea's gaze shifted to the older woman, hardening with remembered pain. "You turned me away. You said Michael wanted nothing to do with me or the baby." "Preposterous," Evelyn scoffed. Michael held up his hand, silencing his mother. He approached Liam slowly, studying the boy's features with newfound awareness. The resemblance was undeniable, like looking at a younger version of himself. "You're really 12, he asked quietly. Liam nodded, his earlier bravado diminished in the face of this tense confrontation. "My birthday is January 15th, Michael quickly calculated backward, his stomach clenching as the timeline aligned perfectly with that last summer with Andrea. "That would mean, I found out I was pregnant a week after you disappeared," Andrea finished for him. "Right before I was supposed to start college, the scholarship went unused." "I didn't disappear," Michael insisted, the confusion evident in his voice. "You disappeared. I came back from my father's funeral in New York, and you were gone. No explanation, no goodbye. Your phone was disconnected. Your mother said you'd left for school early and didn't want to be contacted." Andrea stared at him, her certainty wavering for the first time. "What? My mother told you that?" A tense silence filled the room as the implications of his words settled between them. The momentary quiet was shattered by a knock at the door. Gerald Turner entered, his expression grave. "Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the press is in a frenzy. They're demanding a statement, and social media is already exploding with video clips from the ceremony. Michael closed his eyes briefly, the full weight of the public relations nightmare descending on him. The Jensen merger, the company's stock, the foundation's reputation, all potentially compromised in an instant. "Handle it, Gerald," he said tersely. "No comment from the family at this time. Health issue. Technical difficulty. I don't care what you tell them." As Turner left, Michael's phone began buzzing incessantly. Messages from board members, investors, and media outlets flooding in. "This is exactly why discretion was necessary," Evelyn said coldly. "Now look at the mess you've created." She directed her gaze at Liam. "All because of this child's outburst." "Don't speak about my son that way," Andrea warned, standing to face Evelyn directly. "Mother," Michael interrupted, his voice dangerously calm. "Did you know about this? About Liam?" Something flickered across Evelyn's face. A momentary hesitation, before her practiced mask of composure returned. "Of course not. Don't be ridiculous." But Michael had caught it. That split second of guilt in his mother's eyes. "You're lying," he said slowly. "You knew." Before Evelyn could respond, Michael's phone rang again. He glanced at the screen and swore under his breath. "The San Diego Chronicle," he muttered. "How did they get my private number?" "They're journalists," Andrea said bitterly. "Finding people is what they do. Like finding my mom's social media," Liam added softly. "They've already messaged her. And me." Michael stared at the boy in dismay. "They've contacted you directly. You're a minor." "Welcome to my world," Andrea said, checking her own phone. 6 messages from reporters already. My coworker texted that there are news vans outside our apartment building. Michael's protective instincts flared unexpectedly. "That's unacceptable. You can't go back there tonight." "We don't have much choice," Andrea replied, the weariness evident in her voice. "You'll stay at the Four Seasons," Michael decided. "Under my name. I'll have security escort you." "We don't need your charity," Andrea began. But Michael cut her off. "This isn't charity. It's damage control. And Liam deserves better than to be hounded by reporters on his doorstep." At the mention of his name, Liam looked up, his expression a complicated mix of emotions. "So you believe me? That I'm your son?" Michael met the boy's gaze. His own eyes reflected back at him. "I think we need a DNA test to make everything official, but yes, I believe you." The admission seemed to lift a weight from Liam's shoulders. He glanced hesitantly at his mother, who gave a slight nod of approval. "While this touching family reunion is heartwarming," Evelyn interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "there are practical matters to attend to. The foundation gala is still ongoing, Michael. Your absence is already noted." "The gala is the least of my concerns right now, Mother." "The Jensen merger isn't," she countered sharply. "Peter Jensen is out there, watching this spectacle unfold. Hundreds of millions of dollars hang in the balance." Michael hesitated, torn between his immediate responsibilities and the pull to stay with Andrea and Liam, to begin unraveling the mystery of the past 12 years. Andrea recognized his dilemma. "Go," she said quietly. "Handle your business. We've waited 12 years. We can wait a little longer." Michael studied her face, the same face that had haunted his dreams for years after she'd vanished. How had he not recognized her immediately at the cafe? "I'll have my driver take you to the hotel," he decided, "and I'll meet you there as soon as I can. We have a lot to talk about." As they prepared to leave separately, Michael's assistant rushed in with a tablet. "Sir, I think you should see this." On the screen was a breaking news headline. "Harrison heir revealed. Tech mogul confronted by secret son at charity gala." Below it, a photo of Michael and Liam side by side on stage, their matching features undeniable. "It's already the top trending topic nationwide," the assistant added nervously. Evelyn snatched the tablet, her face paling as she scrolled through the article. "This is a disaster. The board will have a field day with this scandal." "It's not a scandal, Mother," Michael said firmly, glancing at Liam. "It's my son." By morning, Andrea had counted 17 missed calls from news outlets. From the penthouse suite of the Four Seasons, she watched as Liam slept peacefully on the king-sized bed. Exhausted from the emotional upheaval of the night before, Michael had never made it to the hotel, Emergency board meetings and damage control had kept him occupied until the early hours. According to the apologetic text he'd sent around 2 a.m., Andrea's phone buzzed with a new message. Not from a reporter this time, but from Denise at the cafe. "Have you seen this? They're running background on you." Someone talked. Attached was a link to a tabloid article. Who is Andrea Simmons? Inside the secret life of Harrison's baby mama. The article featured quotes from someone identified only as a close friend, describing Andrea's financial struggles, her dating history since Liam's birth, and even private conversations about Michael over the years. Andrea's stomach clenched. Only one person knew those details. Her best friend, Tasha, whom she'd confided in through every hard year of single motherhood. A knock at the suite door jolted her from her thoughts. She opened it to find a hotel staff member holding a stack of newspapers. "Mr. Harrison requested these be delivered to you, ma'am." Andrea thanked him and spread the papers across the coffee table. Every front page featured some variation of the same story, with headlines ranging from factual, "Harrison Foundation Gala reveals CEO's unknown son," to sensational, "Secret love child scandal rocks tech world." One particularly vicious tabloid suggested that Andrea had orchestrated the entire reveal as a calculated attempt to extract money from the Harrison fortune. Another speculated that Michael had known about Liam all along, but kept him hidden to preserve his bachelor image. None of them came close to the truth, a truth that Andrea herself was beginning to question. Had Michael really never received her calls, her letters? Had her own mother lied to him about her whereabouts? And most disturbing of all, what role had Evelyn Harrison played in keeping father and son apart? As dawn broke over San Diego, illuminating the penthouse suite with golden light, Andrea made a decision. She would get to the bottom of what happened 12 years ago, no matter what painful truths might be uncovered, for Liam's sake, and maybe, just maybe, for her own. Michael's office at Harrison Enterprises occupied the entire top floor of a sleek high-rise overlooking San Diego Bay. Usually, the panoramic views calmed him. But today, nothing could ease the storm in his mind. The DNA test results lay on his desk, though he hardly needed the clinical confirmation of what his eyes had told him the moment he saw Liam up close. 99.9999% probability of paternity. His son? He had a 12-year-old son he knew nothing about. His phone buzzed with yet another call from the PR team. The third this morning, the media frenzy showed no signs of abating. If anything, it had intensified as more sources close to the family sold their stories to tabloids. Michael ignored the call, and instead opened his laptop to the video file his security team had sent over. The surveillance footage from the Harrison estate, dated 12 years ago, had taken considerable effort to locate in the archives. He pressed play and leaned closer. The grainy footage showed the front gates of the mansion. A taxi pulled up, and a young woman stepped out, visibly pregnant, her face partially obscured by her hair as she spoke into the intercom. Even with the poor quality, Michael recognized Andrea immediately. The footage jumped to another camera, showing Andrea being met at the gate by security guards who appeared to be denying her entry. She gestured pleadingly, placing a hand on her swollen belly. One guard shook his head firmly, while the other spoke into a radio. A few minutes later, the estate's Blacktown car pulled up. Evelyn Harrison emerged, her posture rigid with disapproval, though there was no audio. The confrontation was clear, Andrea desperately trying to speak, while Evelyn cut her off repeatedly with dismissive gestures. The final moments showed Andrea accepting what appeared to be an envelope from Evelyn. Her shoulders slumped in defeat as she walked back to the waiting taxi. Michael closed the laptop, feeling physically ill. Andrea had been telling the truth. She had come to the house and his mother had sent her away. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Harrison?" Mrs. Herrera stood in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically nervous. In her hands was a small wooden box. "May I speak with you?" Michael gestured for her to enter. The elderly housekeeper had been with the family since before his birth, a constant quiet presence in the background of his life. "What is it, Mrs. Herrera?" She placed the box on his desk. "I should have given you these years ago, but your mother, she has been good to my family. My silence paid for my daughter's college education." Her eyes grew damp with shame. "But I cannot keep silent anymore, not after seeing that boy on the news. Your son. He looks just like you did at that age." Michael opened the box cautiously. Inside were a dozen envelopes, yellowed with age, all addressed to him in neat handwriting, all from Andrea Simmons. "Where did you get these?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your mother instructed me to collect any mail from her and burn it," Mrs. Herrera admitted. "But I couldn't do it. I hid them instead." Michael picked up the first letter, dated a week after Andrea had supposedly disappeared, with trembling fingers. He opened it. "Michael, I've called a dozen times, but your number is disconnected. I went to your house, but the guard said you were away and wouldn't take my message. I don't understand what's happening. I need to see you. It's important. More important than I can say in a letter. Please call me as soon as you get this. I miss you." Andrea Michael moved to the next letter, then the next, each one more desperate than the last, culminating in the final letter where Andrea revealed her pregnancy. "I'm having your baby, Michael. I'm scared and alone, and I don't know why you won't see me. If you truly don't want anything to do with us, at least have the courage to tell me to my face." Mrs. Herrera watched as Michael's expression hardened. "There were phone messages too," she said quietly. "Your mother intercepted them all. Thank you for bringing these to me," Michael said, his voice controlled despite the rage building inside him. "You can go." As the door closed behind her, Michael picked up his desk phone. "Susan, cancel my meetings for the day and have the car brought around. There's something I need to take care of." Andrea sat across from Tasha at a quiet corner table in a cafe far from their usual haunts. After the media ambush outside her apartment building that morning, she'd needed somewhere discreet to confront her so-called best friend. "I can explain," Tasha began, nervously shredding a paper napkin. "Explain what?" Andrea kept her voice low, mindful of potential eavesdroppers. "How you sold private details of my life to the highest bidder. How you betrayed 12 years of friendship." Tasha had the decency to look ashamed. "They offered me $20,000, Andrea. $20,000. You know I've been behind on rent since the divorce. So you traded my privacy and Liam's for money?" The hurt in Andrea's voice was palpable. "I didn't tell them anything that would really hurt you," Tasha insisted. "Just enough for the story they wanted. And let's be honest, this could work out great for you. Michael Harrison is worth billions. Think about what that means for Liam." Andrea stared at her friend in disbelief. "Is that what you think this is about? Money? Isn't it? At least a little bit." Tasha leaned forward. "You've struggled for years, Andrea. Single mom, working double shifts, pinching pennies. Now the father of your child turns out to be one of the richest men in California. You're telling me you haven't thought about child support, college funds, the life Liam could have?" "Of course I've thought about what Liam deserves," Andrea admitted. "But that's not why I kept his photo, or why I took the cafe job near the financial district, or why I've driven past the Harrison estate more times than I can count over the years." "Then why?" Andrea's eyes welled with unexpected tears. "Because I loved him, Tasha. Because a part of me never stopped loving him. Even when I thought he'd abandoned us, and because Liam deserves to know where he comes from." Tasha's expression softened with genuine remorse. "I'm sorry, Andy. Really, I didn't think—" "No, you didn't," Andrea cut her off, rising from the table. "And now I'm not sure I can ever trust you again," as she walked out of the cafe. Her phone chimed with a text from an unfamiliar number. "This is Michael. We need to talk. I have the letters. All of them." Andrea froze on the sidewalk, her heart pounding. The letters. After 12 years, Michael had finally received her letters. Liam sat on the balcony of the hotel suite, watching the boats in the harbor while pretending not to notice the telephoto lenses occasionally aimed in his direction from neighboring buildings. Being the center of a media frenzy was both exhilarating and terrifying, exactly as he'd imagined fame might feel. His phone buzzed with yet another message from Jake. "Dude, you're trending. This is insane. When are you coming back to school?" Liam smiled faintly. School seemed like such a distant concern now. In the span of 24 hours, his entire life had been upended. He had a father who apparently hadn't abandoned them after all. The suite door opened, and Liam turned, expecting his mother. Instead, Michael Harrison stood awkwardly in the doorway, a leather messenger bag slung over his shoulder. "Your mom let me in," Michael explained. "She went to get coffee, said we might want some time alone." Liam stood, suddenly self-conscious. "Hi," Hi. Michael approached cautiously. This is strange, isn't it? Yeah, Liam agreed with a relieved laugh. Super weird. The tension eased slightly as Michael joined him at the balcony railing. Nice view. Better than our apartment, Liam admitted. We can see the dumpsters behind the Chinese restaurant. Michael smiled. The same lopsided smile Liam saw in the mirror. I lived in a place like that once. Before the company took off. My first apartment after college. The whole place smelled like kung pao chicken. An awkward silence fell between them. I'm sorry about the gala, Liam finally said. Mom's pretty mad about how I did it. It wasn't ideal, Michael acknowledged. But I understand why you did it. I might have done the same at your age. Really. I was pretty impulsive as a kid. Still am sometimes. Michael glanced sideways at his son. I'm told it's a Harrison trait. The corner of Liam's mouth quirked up. Mom says I get my stubborn streak from you. She's probably right. Michael turned to face Liam fully. Look, I know this is complicated, and I know I've missed everything. 12 years, your whole life. I can't get that time back. But I want you to know that I'm here now. If you'll let me be. Liam studied Michael's face, his own eyes looking back at him. Did you really not know about me? Michael shook his head, the pain evident in his expression. No, I just found out that your mom tried to tell me, many times, her letters. Her calls, they were intercepted. She even came to the house, but she was turned away. By your mom, Liam guessed. He stopped himself. By Mrs. Harrison. Yes, Michael confirmed. I'm still piecing it all together, but it seems my mother and possibly your grandmother conspired to keep us apart. Liam's eyes widened. My grandma was involved. Mom's mom. I don't know for sure, Michael admitted, but I intend to find out. He reached into his messenger bag and pulled out a small box. I brought something for you. I thought you might want to see these. Liam opened the box to find the stack of letters from Andrea to Michael. The paper softened with age. These are from Mom, he asked in wonder. Michael nodded. The letters she wrote me when she was pregnant with you. Letters I never received. Until today, as Liam carefully read through his mother's words from 12 years ago. Her fear, her confusion, her love. He began to understand the full measure of what had been stolen from them. Not just a father from a son, but a future from a young couple who might have built a life together. I have something too, Liam said suddenly, pulling out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times and handed it to Michael. Mom doesn't know I found these. Michael looked down at a series of photographs. Andrea and a baby Liam. Andrea helping a toddler. Liam blow out birthday candles. Elementary school photos. Sports teams. Science fairs. A visual timeline of all the moments he'd missed. I used to pretend you were just away on business trips, Liam admitted quietly. That one day you'd come home and be amazed at how much I'd grown. Michael's vision blurred with tears. He refused to let fall. I would have been there, he said, his voice rough with emotion. For all of it, you have to believe that. Liam nodded, something tight in his chest finally beginning to loosen. I think I do. When Andrea returned with coffee, she found them sitting side by side, Michael listening intently as Liam explained the intricacies of his wind turbine design. Their matching profiles silhouetted against the afternoon light. The Harrison estate loomed against the setting sun as Michael pulled his car through the gates. The sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion had always felt more like a museum than a home, but today it felt like something else entirely. A crime scene where his life had been irrevocably altered. He found his mother in her study, calmly reviewing foundation documents, as if the world hadn't shifted on its axis. Evelyn glanced up, her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. Michael, I was beginning to think you'd forgotten where you live. Her tone was light, but her eyes were wary as she took in his expression. The board is waiting for your statement on the situation. Michael placed the box of letters on her desk. I think we need to discuss the situation first, don't you? Evelyn glanced at the box, her composure faltering for just a moment. What are these? You know exactly what they are, Michael said, his voice dangerously quiet. Letters from Andrea. Letters you made sure I never received. Michael, don't. He held up his hand. I have the surveillance footage from 12 years ago. I've spoken with Mrs. Herrera. I know what you did. Evelyn removed her glasses slowly, buying time to gather her thoughts. Whatever you think you know. I know that Andrea came here, pregnant with my child, begging to see me. I know you turned her away. I know you gave her money to disappear. I protected you, Evelyn said firmly. You were 20 years old, with your whole future ahead of you. That girl would have ruined everything. That girl was the woman I loved, Michael shot back. And that everything you were so desperate to protect, my company, my reputation, none of it means anything compared to what you took from me. Don't be naive. Evelyn stood, her voice hardening. You were a boy with a summer fling. If I hadn't intervened, you would have thrown away the Harrison legacy for some waitress and her. My son, Michael cut in. Liam is my son, your grandson, a child who grew up without his father because of your lies. Evelyn's expression didn't soften. The Harrison name stands for something in this city. I wasn't about to let it be tarnished by scandal. Your father would have done exactly the same. Don't you dare bring him into this, Michael warned. Dad would never have kept me from my own child. Your father wasn't here, Evelyn snapped. He was dead, and suddenly I had to make all the difficult decisions alone. The girl was nothing, a phase you would have outgrown. The pregnancy was clearly a trap. Michael stared at his mother, truly seeing her for perhaps the first time. Cold, calculating, willing to sacrifice anything and anyone for the sake of the family name. I want the truth, Mother, all of it. Was Andrea's mother involved in this? Evelyn's mouth tightened. Elizabeth Simmons was amenable to our arrangement. She had her own concerns about her daughter's future. So the two of you conspired to separate us, Michael said, the betrayal cutting even deeper than he'd anticipated. Did you even tell me she called? That she came by? Or did you just let me believe she'd abandoned me after Dad's death? I told you she'd left for college early. It was cleaner that way. Cleaner, Michael repeated bitterly. You ruined 3 lives to keep things clean. He turned away from his mother, moving instead to the antique secretary desk in the corner, his father's desk, where Evelyn kept her private papers. What are you doing? Evelyn demanded, as he pulled out a small key he'd taken from Mrs. Herrera earlier that day. Looking for the rest of the truth, Michael answered, unlocking the bottom drawer. Inside, just as the housekeeper had described, was a stack of leather-bound journals, his mother's private diaries, meticulously kept for decades. You have no right, Evelyn began, moving to stop him. I have every right, Michael countered, selecting the volume dated 12 years ago. You stole my right to be a father. You stole Liam's right to know me. You stole Andrea's right to make her own choices. He flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Entries from the summer after his father's death. June 15th. Michael continues to see the Simmons girl, despite my objections. I've made it clear she's unsuitable. But he's blinded by infatuation. His father's death has made him rebellious, determined to live his own life, as if the Harrison name and responsibilities could be so easily discarded. July 2nd. Elizabeth Simmons called today. It seems our children's romance has produced consequences. The girl is pregnant and Elizabeth is as horrified as I am. We've agreed to meet tomorrow to discuss how to handle this unfortunate situation. Michael's hands tightened on the diary as he continued reading. The full scope of his mother's manipulation revealed in her own meticulous handwriting. The conspiracy with Elizabeth Simmons. The intercepted calls. The returned letters marked, address unknown. And finally, the confrontation at the gates, July 18th. The Andrea situation has been resolved. The girl took the money as expected. Elizabeth assures me she will ensure her daughter leaves San Diego for good. Michael must never know about the child. The Harrison line will not be tainted by some waitress's bastard offspring. It's for his own good. My own good, Michael echoed, looking up to meet his mother's gaze. You decided what was for my own good, without any regard for what I wanted, what I needed. You were grieving, Evelyn said defensively, vulnerable, making reckless decisions. I loved her, Michael said simply, and I would have loved my son, and thrown away everything your father built, everything I sacrificed for. Evelyn's voice rose with righteous indignation. You wouldn't have finished college. The company would have floundered. Our family name. Michael interrupted bitterly. That's all that ever mattered to you, wasn't it? Not me, not my happiness. Just the precious Harrison legacy. He turned toward the door, diary in hand. "Where are you going with that?" Evelyn demanded. "To show Andrea she deserves to know the full truth. You walk out that door with my private property, and I'll contest your position on the board," Evelyn threatened. "I still hold controlling interest in the company trust." Michael paused, turning back with a cold smile. "Go ahead, sue me. Contest my position. Let's air every bit of the Harrison family's dirty laundry in public. I'm sure the media would love that story." Evelyn blanched. "You wouldn't dare. Try me." Michael's voice was steel. "You taught me well, Mother. Never threaten unless you're willing to follow through." As he reached the door, Evelyn called out, her voice suddenly less certain. "She only came for the money, you know, that girl. Just like she's doing now." Michael shook his head sadly. "Andrea never cashed your check, Mrs. Herrera found it torn in half in the trash after she left." The revelation seemed to hit Evelyn physically. She sank into her chair, suddenly looking every one of her 70 years. "You can't undo the past," she said finally. "No," Michael agreed. "But I can make damn sure I don't repeat your mistakes with my own son." Andrea opened the door to the hotel suite, expecting room service with the dinner she'd ordered for Liam. Instead, she found Michael standing there, his face ashen, a leather-bound book clutched in his hand. "What's wrong?" she asked, immediately concerned. "I found it," he said. "All of it. The truth about what my mother did, what your mother helped her do." Andrea's heart sank. "My mother? What are you talking about?" Michael held out the diary. "It's all here, in her own words." As Andrea read through the damning entries, her legs grew weak. She sank onto the edge of the sofa, the final pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "My mother knew," she whispered. "She helped keep us apart. They both did," Michael confirmed, sitting beside her. "Mine intercepted your communications to me. Yours apparently convinced you I wanted nothing to do with you or the baby." Andrea closed her eyes, memories flooding back. Her mother's insistence that she leave San Diego, the convenient nursing program in Arizona, the constant reminders that Michael had moved on with his life. "She died 3 years ago," Andrea said softly. "I never knew. I never even suspected." "Mine is very much alive," Michael said grimly, "and surprisingly unrepentant." Andrea looked toward the bedroom where Liam was napping, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the past few days. "What do we tell him? That both his grandmothers conspired to keep his parents apart." "We tell him the truth," Michael said firmly. "That our families made terrible mistakes, but that we're going to make it right, starting now." Andrea studied his face, the face she'd once known better than her own, now lined with 12 years of experiences they hadn't shared. "Can we?" she asked honestly. "Make it right after so much time?" "I don't know," Michael admitted. "But I want to try, for Liam's sake, and maybe for our sake too." The honesty in his eyes, the same eyes she saw every day in her son's face, pierced through the protective walls Andrea had built around her heart. For the first time in 12 years, she allowed herself to wonder, what if they could reclaim some piece of what had been stolen from them? What if the love that had created Liam hadn't been destroyed, but merely buried, waiting to be rediscovered? "One day at a time," she said quietly. Not a promise, but an opening, a door left slightly ajar between their separate lives. Michael nodded, understanding both what she was offering and its limitations. One day at a time, 2 weeks after the gala revelation, life had settled into an uneasy new pattern. Andrea and Liam had returned to their apartment, though Michael had insisted on paying for security to keep the dwindling but persistent media presence at bay. The initial shock had faded into regular news cycles. But the story still occasionally resurfaced in tabloids and gossip columns. Michael pulled his BMW into a parking space outside Café Luminoso, ignoring the curious glances from patrons who recognized him. These impromptu visits had become part of his routine, stopping by during Andrea's shifts, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes to discuss Liam's schedule or upcoming events. Today, however, was different. Today was his first official day as an ordinary customer. The bell chimed as he entered, and several heads turned. Andrea looked up from behind the counter, surprise flickering across her face. "I thought you had board meetings all day," she said as he approached. I did. Michael managed a tight smile. They didn't go as planned. Andrea studied his expression, immediately sensing something was wrong. What happened? Michael glanced around at the other customers. Can we talk? Somewhere private, Antonio? The cafe owner noticed their conversation and waved Andrea toward the back. Take 15, Andrea. Use my office. Once the door closed behind them, Michael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Andrea had come to recognize as a sign of frustration. The board voted to temporarily relieve me of my CEO duties, he said. The words clipped with barely contained anger. Until the personal situation is resolved and no longer distracting from company business. They can't do that, Andrea said, indignant. It's your company. It's a publicly traded company with a board answerable to shareholders, Michael corrected her. And my mother still controls enough stock to sway votes. Evelyn did this. Andrea's hands clenched into fists at her sides. She claims she's protecting the company, Michael said bitterly. The Jensen merger is stalled. Our stock has dropped 12%. Investors are nervous about leadership stability. Andrea sank into Antonio's desk chair, guilt washing over her. This is my fault. If I hadn't come back into your life. Don't. Michael cut her off firmly. None of this is your fault, or Liam's. The blame rests entirely with my mother and her manipulations. What will you do now? Michael's tense expression softened slightly. Honestly, I'm not sure. For the first time in my adult life, I don't have to be at the office by 7 or take calls at midnight. It's disorienting. Andrea couldn't help but smile at his bewilderment. Welcome to how the rest of us live. I thought I might use the time to get to know my son better, Michael said, his tone cautious, seeking her approval. If that's okay with you? The careful way he navigated their fragile co-parenting arrangement touched Andrea. Despite everything, he was trying so hard to respect her boundaries, her role as Liam's primary parent. He'd like that, she said softly. He's been talking about wanting to show you his full science project, the one that won the grant. I'd love to see it. Michael hesitated, then added, I was thinking, maybe I could help with his homework sometimes, or take him to his activities. Andrea nodded, warmth spreading through her chest at his eagerness to be involved in the everyday aspects of parenting. He has a science club competition this Saturday. He's been working on his wind turbine design. Saturday, Michael confirmed, pulling out his phone to make a note. I'll be there. As they walked back to the main cafe area, Michael paused. There's something else. I've scheduled a press conference for tomorrow morning. I'm going to publicly acknowledge Liam as my son and address the rumors about our situation. I wanted to make sure you're okay with that. Andrea studied his face. Why now? Because I'm tired of the speculation, the tabloid stories, the photographers following you and Liam. Michael's expression hardened. And because my mother is counting on me to hide from this, to treat it as something shameful. I won't do that. Liam deserves better. Andrea felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you. Michael ordered a coffee before leaving, insisting on paying full price despite Antonio's protests as he headed for the door. He turned back to Andrea. See you Saturday? She nodded, watching him walk to his car, a man whose world had been upended in ways even his vast resources couldn't control, yet who seemed, improbably, more authentic than she'd ever seen him. Saturday arrived with perfect weather for the outdoor science competition. Liam fidgeted nervously with his display board while Andrea helped set up his demonstration model. Do you think he'll really come? Liam asked, trying to sound casual. He said he would, Andrea replied, scanning the parking lot. Michael hadn't just said he'd come. He'd called twice to confirm the time and location, had asked what Liam might want for lunch afterward, had seemed almost as nervous as his son about getting it right. But he's probably super busy, right? Even on weekends with the company and stuff. Andrea chose her words carefully. Your father is making you a priority, Liam. That means he'll be here. As if on cue. A familiar figure appeared at the edge of the school field. Not the sleek executive in designer suits, but a more casual version in jeans and a button-down shirt, carrying a coffee tray, and what looked suspiciously like a bag from Liam's favorite donut shop. Liam's face lit up. He came. Of course he did, Andrea said, her own smile widening involuntarily. He's your dad. Michael approached somewhat awkwardly, clearly aware of the curious stares from other parents and children. I brought reinforcements, he said, offering the coffee and donuts. Brain food. Awesome, Liam exclaimed, immediately diving for the bag. Did you get the chocolate glazed with sprinkles? Michael finished. 2 of them. Liam shot a surprised look at his mother, who shrugged innocently. She might have texted Michael a few of Liam's favorites. So this is the famous wind turbine, Michael said, examining the project with genuine interest. Tell me how it works. For the next 20 minutes, Liam enthusiastically explained his design modifications, the mathematical formulas he'd used to calculate optimal blade angles, and his ideas for future improvements. Michael asked thoughtful questions, offered suggestions, and beamed with unmistakable pride. Andrea stepped back, watching father and son hunched over the project, their matching dark heads close together, hands gesturing in identical patterns as they discussed technical details. The scene brought an unexpected tightness to her throat. When the judges approached, Michael gave Liam an encouraging thumbs up and moved to stand beside Andrea. He's incredible, Michael whispered. So smart. He gets that from you, Andrea admitted. And his passion, his determination, that's all you. Michael's gaze lingered on her face longer than strictly necessary. Andrea felt heat rise in her cheeks and quickly looked away. This new dynamic between them. Not quite friends. Definitely not a couple. But something more than mere co-parents. Left her constantly off balance. Later, as Liam accepted the first-place ribbon, his face split with a triumphant grin. Michael impulsively threw an arm around Andrea's shoulders in celebration. She stiffened momentarily, then relaxed into the half-embrace, allowing herself to share the moment with him. We made something amazing, Michael murmured, his eyes fixed on their son. Whatever else happened, we did that right. The we hung in the air between them, a reminder of what they had once been to each other, what they might have remained if fate and family hadn't intervened. Evening found them at Michael's downtown penthouse, where he'd invited them for a celebratory dinner after the competition. Liam was exploring the state-of-the-art home theater, while Andrea and Michael stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Your press conference went well, Andrea said, breaking the comfortable silence. I saw it online. Michael had been eloquent and forthright, acknowledging Liam as his son, explaining that he had only recently learned of his existence due to family circumstances, and asking respectfully for privacy as they built their relationship. He had also, to Andrea's surprise, defended her publicly, stating unequivocally that she had tried repeatedly to inform him of the pregnancy and that he deeply regretted the years lost. I meant every word, Michael said simply. I know. Andrea turned to face him. Liam watched it too. He was moved. It meant a lot to him. Hearing you claim him so openly. I'll keep doing it, every day if necessary, Michael promised. I've missed too much already. The evening breeze carried the scent of the ocean as they stood side by side, looking out at the city where they'd once been young and in love, where they'd created a life neither of them had been allowed to share until now. Michael, Andrea began hesitantly, I need to know something that summer. Was it real? What you felt for me? The question had haunted her for 12 years. Had he really loved her? Or had she merely been a rebellion against his mother? A summer distraction for a grieving son? Michael turned to her, and his expression earnest. It was the most real thing in my life after my father died. Everything felt hollow, meaningless. Except you. You were my anchor when I was drowning. The simple honesty of his answer broke something loose inside Andrea. A knot of doubt she'd carried for so long she'd forgotten it was there. I never stopped wondering, she admitted. About you. About us. What might have been. Neither did I, Michael confessed. Even when I thought you'd left by choice, there was always something missing. I dated, even had a few serious relationships, but nothing ever felt complete. Inside, they heard Liam call excitedly about finding Michael's vintage video game collection. The moment between them, fragile, charged with unresolved feelings, paused as they smiled at their son's enthusiasm. One day at a time, Andrea reminded him gently, echoing their earlier agreement. Michael nodded, respecting the boundary she'd set. One day at a time. But the way his fingers brushed against hers as they turned to go inside held a question, a hope, that perhaps, someday, they might find their way back to what had been stolen from them. The private room at Café Luminoso had been transformed for the evening. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling and white roses adorning each table. Michael had rented out the entire cafe for the occasion. 1 month since Liam had revealed the truth at the gala. A lifetime since the summer romance that had created him. Andrea arrived exactly at 7, wearing a simple blue dress that brought out the color of her eyes. She paused in the doorway, taking in the intimate setting. Just one table set for 2, soft music playing in the background, and Michael standing nervously by the window. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, gesturing to the elegant setup. "I wanted to," Michael replied. "It seemed fitting to come back to where we reconnected." Andrea smiled, remembering the day he'd walked into the cafe and upended her carefully constructed life. "Where you ordered an Americano and didn't recognize me. The biggest oversight of my life," Michael said with a rueful smile. "Though in my defense, the last time I'd seen you, you had purple streaks in your hair and wore combat boots. I was very committed to my rebellious phase." Andrea laughed as she took her seat. Antonio himself served their meal, beaming with pride at hosting what he'd dramatically dubbed the reunion of the century as they ate. The conversation flowed easily between them. Updates on Liam's science project, stories from Andrea's college classes, news about Michael's recent foundation work. "So the board still hasn't reinstated you?" Andrea asked as they finished dessert. Michael shook his head. "Not officially, but I'm not sure I want to go back. At least not in the same capacity." "Really?" Andrea studied his face, surprised. "I thought the company was everything to you." "I thought so too," Michael admitted. "But these past weeks with Liam, coaching his science team, helping with homework, just being a dad, it's made me realize what I've been missing. The company will always be there. These years with Liam won't." Andrea felt something warm unfurl in her chest. This was a different Michael than the ambitious young man she'd fallen for at 18, and certainly different from the polished executive who'd first walked back into her life. There was a depth to him now, a groundedness that came from having his priorities thoroughly rearranged. "Speaking of Liam," she said, "he's been dropping some not-so-subtle hints about wanting to learn sailing. Apparently he found out about your boat." Michael laughed. "I'd love to teach him. Maybe next weekend we could make a day of it. He'd like that." Andrea hesitated, then added, "We both would." Something shifted in Michael's expression. Hope, carefully restrained. Over the past month, they'd carefully navigated their new relationship as co-parents, both wary of overstepping, of rushing, of mistaking gratitude or relief for deeper feelings. "Andrea," Michael began, his voice taking on a serious tone. "There's something I need to tell you. About my mother." Andrea tensed slightly. Evelyn Harrison remained a shadow over their tentative new beginning, absent from Liam's life by mutual agreement, unrepentant about her past actions. "What about her?" "She's in the hospital," Michael said quietly. "She had a stroke 3 days ago." "Oh, Michael." Despite everything, Andrea felt a surge of compassion for what he must be going through. "I'm so sorry. Why didn't you say something sooner?" "I didn't want to burden you with it," he admitted. "After everything she did." "She's still your mother," Andrea said gently. "And Liam's grandmother, whether we like it or not. How serious is it?" "The doctors aren't sure if she'll recover fully. She's conscious but very weak." Michael's expression grew troubled. "She's been asking to see you." Andrea stared at him in disbelief. "Me? Why would she want to see me?" "I don't know," Michael confessed. "But she's insistent. She says there's something she needs to tell you before—" He didn't finish the sentence. Andrea's mind raced. The idea of facing Evelyn Harrison again, the woman who had dismissed her as a gold digger, who had systematically destroyed her future with Michael, who had deprived Liam of his father, made her stomach clench. And yet, the possibility of finally getting answers, of perhaps finding some closure. "Would you come with me?" she asked quietly. "Tomorrow." Michael reached across the table, taking her hand. Of course. Evelyn Harrison's private hospital room was filled with flowers from business associates and society friends. But the woman herself looked diminished against the white pillows, her usual formidable presence reduced by illness. She turned her head slightly as Andrea and Michael entered, her gaze sharp despite her weakened state. "So you came," she said, her voice thin but still commanding. Andrea approached the bed cautiously. "Michael said you wanted to speak with me." Evelyn motioned weakly for Michael to leave them alone. He hesitated, looking to Andrea for confirmation. She nodded slightly, and he reluctantly stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "Sit," Evelyn instructed, gesturing to the chair beside the bed. Andrea complied, bracing herself for accusations or threats. Instead, Evelyn's next words caught her completely off guard. "I was wrong." Andrea blinked in surprise. "Excuse me. Don't make me repeat it," Evelyn said irritably. "You heard me? I was wrong. About you, about your intentions toward my son." Stunned into silence, Andrea simply stared at the older woman. "I thought you were after the Harrison fortune," Evelyn continued, each word seemingly an effort. "So many women had tried to trap Michael before, when your mother contacted me about the pregnancy." "My mother contacted you first," Andrea interrupted, the revelation hitting her hard. Evelyn nodded weakly. Elizabeth was horrified by the situation. She came from a respectable family, you know. The scandal of her unmarried daughter pregnant by a Harrison. She made a dismissive gesture. "We found common ground immediately." Andrea felt the sting of betrayal afresh. Her mother, the woman who had comforted her through morning sickness, who had helped her move to Arizona, who had supported her decision to keep the baby, had been working against her from the beginning. "Why are you telling me this now?" Andrea asked. Evelyn's gaze drifted to the window. "When you face mortality, some things become clearer. I've watched my son these past weeks. He's different, happier, despite losing his position. The boy too, my grandson. He has the Harrison spirit." She turned back to Andrea, her eyes suddenly intense. "I still believe I did what was necessary at the time. Michael wasn't ready to be a father. The company needed him. But I acknowledge that my methods were excessive." "Excessive," Andrea repeated incredulously. "You destroyed 3 lives." "I secured the Harrison legacy," Evelyn countered, a flash of her old steel returning. "But perhaps at too high a cost." She paused, seeming to gather strength. "There's something else you should know. Your mother didn't just help me keep you and Michael apart. She was the one who suggested it." Andrea felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. "What?" "Elizabeth Simmons approached me with concerns about your relationship with Michael. She worried about your future, your education. She thought you were too young to be tied to a man, even a wealthy one, through a child." Tears stung Andrea's eyes as pieces of the past rearranged themselves in her mind. Her mother's insistence that she move away, the convenient nursing program in Arizona, the constant reminders that single motherhood would be challenging but rewarding. "She never told me," Andrea whispered. "We agreed it was better that way," Evelyn said matter-of-factly. "Better for you to blame the rich, heartless Harrisons than your own mother." The cruelty of the deception, not just from Evelyn, but from her own mother, left Andrea breathless with anger and grief. "Why tell me this now? Why not take it to your grave?" Evelyn's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Because my son loves you. He always has. And if you're going to build something together, for the boy's sake, it should be founded on truth, not lies." Andrea stood abruptly, needing space, air, distance from this woman and her 11th-hour confessions. "I have to go." "Andrea," Evelyn called as she reached the door. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm offering understanding. There's a difference." Michael found Andrea on the hospital's rooftop garden, tears streaming down her face as she stared out at the city skyline. "What happened?" he asked gently, joining her at the railing. "What did she say to upset you?" Between sobs, Andrea related Evelyn's revelations about her mother's role in their separation. Michael listened in stunned silence, his arm tentatively circling her shoulders as her tears subsided. "I don't know what to believe anymore," Andrea confessed. "My whole life I thought you abandoned us. Then I thought your mother manipulated everything. Now I find out my own mother was equally responsible." She shook her head in disbelief. "How do you move forward from that kind of betrayal?" Michael was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe we don't move forward from it," he said finally. "Maybe we move through it, together." Andrea looked up at him, really seeing him, the man who had lost his father too young, who had been manipulated by his mother, who had built an empire to fill the void of what had been taken from him, and who now stood beside her, offering not answers but companionship in the uncertainty. "Together," she echoed softly. I know we said one day at a time, Michael began cautiously, but I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, Andrea. Not really. Even when I thought you'd left by choice, there was always a part of me waiting for you to come back. The simple honesty of his words broke through the last of Andrea's carefully constructed walls. Whatever their mothers had done, whatever lies had been told, the truth between them remained. They had loved each other once, had created a beautiful son together, and now stood on the precipice of a second chance neither had ever expected to receive. I think I'd like to try that coffee date now, Andrea said with a watery smile, referencing the invitation Michael had extended weeks ago at the cafe, an invitation she'd politely declined, too afraid to hope. Michael's face lit up with a boyish grin that reminded her powerfully of Liam. I know a great place. The owner's Italian. Makes the best cappuccino in town. 1 month later, the beach at La Jolla Cove was nearly empty in the early morning light. Andrea walked barefoot along the shoreline, the same stretch of sand where she and Michael had once made teenage promises under the stars. She spotted them in the distance, Liam running ahead, Michael following at a more measured pace, both carrying surfboards. Their weekly surfing lessons had quickly become Liam's favorite activity, a special time for father and son. As they approached, Liam waved excitedly. Mom, did you see me catch that wave? Dad says I'm a natural. I saw, Andrea called back, smiling at her son's enthusiasm. You're getting really good. Michael reached her side, salt water dripping from his hair, his eyes crinkling with happiness. He really is a natural, better than I was at his age. Thank you, Andrea said softly, not just for the compliment to their son, but for everything. For his patience, his forgiveness, his willingness to build something new from the ashes of what had been stolen from them. Michael understood, as he increasingly did these days. He took her hand, sand and salt water mingling between their fingers. I was thinking, he said casually, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. Liam mentioned he wouldn't mind having a sibling someday. Andrea laughed, leaning into his shoulder. Did he now? And did you happen to put him up to that? I would never, Michael protested with mock offense, though I might have mentioned how fun it was growing up with cousins. Subtle, Andrea teased. They watched as Liam ran back into the waves, fearless and joyful, the living embodiment of their love for each other. We have a lot of time to make up for, Michael said softly. A lot of memories to build. Andrea turned to him. The man she had loved as a girl, lost through betrayal, and found again against all odds. Then we better get started. As their lips met, gentle and promising, Liam's delighted whoop echoed across the water. Approval from the child who had brought them back together, who had refused to let family secrets keep him from his father, who had been braver than any of them. On the horizon, the sun climbed higher, casting golden light across the water, across 3 figures on the shore. Not just a man, a woman, and a child, but a family, reborn from truth, forgiveness, and love that had never truly died. Epilogue. The Harrison Family Foundation's new headquarters opened to considerable media attention 6 months later. The modern building, with its innovative green energy systems inspired by Liam's designs, housed not only the charitable organization, but also a new initiative, the Second Chance program for single parents seeking education and employment opportunities. As cameras flashed during the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Michael stood proudly with Andrea and Liam beside him. His mother, still recovering but determined to attend, watched from a wheelchair in the front row, her relationship with her grandson still tentative but slowly warming. And in the back of the crowd, a pair of distant Harrison cousins observed with calculating eyes, their gazes fixed on the family they had suddenly discovered an interest in, now that the Harrison fortune had a new heir. But that, as they say, is a story for another day.